on the News Channel 5 network. This is OpenLine.
Hello everyone, welcome to OpenLine. I am Ben Hall. Good show tonight. We want to hear from you tonight. We're talking about what do you do if you have a loved one who is in who is planning for long-term care. Maybe they're in a nursing home or they are about to go into a nursing home. How do you plan for that? Very happy to have with us Barbara Boone McGinnis talking about elder law. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
So many people find themselves in this situation. They have a loved one, a mother, a father they're caring for. What are some of the things you're seeing just in your office, just in the last week or so? You know, what are you seeing?
Well, almost every day there's somebody that's coming in and they're talking about we're either having to find a place. What's the right place? People often don't understand the different levels of care, like what's the difference between assisted living and nursing home care, and if they really do need nursing home level of care, what should I be thinking about? How do I know that I'm picking a good place? Those are questions that we hear almost every day.
And what are some of the things people do that is not right? What are some of the mistakes people make?
I think people sometimes make the mistake because they're pressured into from a hospital discharge to picking a place that so they rush into things. They have not done their homework, you might say. They haven't looked to see well, not only what's convenient, what's close by, because that's real important, being able to visit on a regular basis, that's real important. But in addition to that, what are their therapy hours of service? Like, are they going to provide therapy on the weekend if they're there for rehab? What's the nursing staffing ratio? Just sample a meal and visit at mealtime to see, because that's probably one of the biggest complaints that we hear, you know, meals. So visiting, choosing the right place for the environment, not just what it looks like or the aesthetics on the outside of the building. Knowing how to use sites like the Medicare Compare site. You know, the government's gone through a lot of trouble to put together this great website to help people. Now, it's not the only thing you should do is go there to that Medicare.gov Compare site, but you really should use that.
Right, absolutely. And the money is the other thing. We were talking a little bit before the show about how much it would cost. You said it was $267 a day. That comes to $8,000 a month.
Yeah.
You know, how do you plan for that?
And then the truth is, a lot of people don't plan well enough because trying to accumulate the kind of money to be private pay, you know, first of all, we all spend our lives hoping we never are living on the inside of a nursing home walls. And so I think a little bit of a denial because the cost is so tremendous. People cannot really, the average person can't stay ahead of that kind of curve to accumulate that sort of wealth. And the 267 is a national average, but I think it's pretty representative of our Tennessee urban market as well. A couple of things that folks could do, especially folks like our age.
Right.
Go ahead and start shopping for long-term care. We spend a lot of time looking for health insurance coverage these days, and retirement planning, but really one of the best things that we could do is long-term care insurance planning, making sure that we've got coverage for that sort of catastrophic event. You know, statistically, in our nation, 62% of residents in long-term care, their care is paid for by Medicaid. Medicaid's a federal program that's administered on the state level. So each state gets to administer it on their own. In Tennessee, we call it TennCare. And probably in Tennessee, we're right there at that 62% mark too. I think we might be just a little bit higher than that. But I think that's why a lot of people not rely on, perhaps is not the right word, but resort to Medicaid coverage is because of those, the costs are astronomical for most families.
And the other thing they worry about is that, okay, am I going to lose my house? Or are they going to? Is the government going to come and get assets of mine if, you know, my wife goes into a nursing home or I go into a nursing home? You know, those kind of things.
Right.
How do you plan for that?
Well, and that's very often the lead worry that families say to us. I'll ask, or Tim will ask when they're meeting with a client, what is it you worry about? I'm worried about the nursing home taking our home or the state taking our home. Well, the answer is just real simple. The nursing home doesn't want your home, but the nursing home is in the business of of providing care. So they need a payer source. They need a guaranteed payer source. And the government has the right, in our state, the state of Tennessee, has the right to attempt a state recovery after they have paid for someone's care through the TennCare program. It's a recoupment process, and it's actually a requirement from the federal
So
department.
how aggressive are they, and how often do they do it?
Well, most of the time, they are fairly aggressive, at least in the paperwork part of it. From an actual recovery, I would say it's in a reasonable sort of level of aggressiveness, that you're going to see letters reminding you about their right for recovery during the application process, at the death of someone that has received TennCare. They send a notice out. So it's a real thing. It does really happen.
And how could you prevent that? Because I know people, they say, okay, well, let's give the house to the kids.
Yeah.
And then they won't come and take the house. Or
yeah, but the kids could lose it, right?
The kids could lose the house.
Yeah.
Tim always talks about that. But I mean, all right, so how do you prevent that, if you can?
Yeah.
Or should, but what can people do if they are worried about that?
Well, just like pre-planning for actual payment of nursing home care, you know, and getting long-term care insurance perhaps, pre-planning for asset protection is a bona fide use of estate planning attorneys that we can help with those sort of protections. Every family is unique, though they may have some similar worries, but very often the use of trusts. Very rarely do we actually recommend giving the house to a child because of all kinds of reasons.
Right.
But certain types of trusts can be protective and help families reach their goals of asset transfer to the next generation at the appropriate time, protection from certain creditors. But those aren't things that you can do overnight. They require some forethought.
And the long-term care insurance, again, the appropriate time to start buying that and thinking about that?
I think it's probably in your early 50s. I mean, if you're 60, I wouldn't say it's definitely too late. Certainly seek out a representative that's knowledgeable about selling long-term care insurance. If you're in your 40s, that might be too early, but again, you know, seek professional advice about buying the long-term care insurance.
Well, I think that's fascinating. And the things you see, you do see, I guess, families worried about doing what's right for their parents often, right? It's kids coming in worried about their parents. They're getting older and they're like, what do we do?
Right.
And you help them walk through at least the financial side of that.
And there, all the time there's people that are insightful enough about their own diagnosis and their own illness or that of their spouse that they're seeking counsel early enough. You know, we've had people just a new diagnosis of dementia come and seek planning. That's so incredibly appropriate. You want to give them a gold star, you know, because a lot of times people don't think about it until it is sort of on the late side. But I really applaud this family. They came in, new diagnosis this year, came in to do their planning, to appoint surrogate decision makers. So a lot of times we talk about what estate planning can do at end of life, like wealth transfer. How does assets get from one generation to the other? But you know, what's really, really important is who's going to make decisions for that person as they grow old and become frail and incapacitated. So surrogate decision making, conservatorship avoidance, that is what I love to do. I love to help families get that accomplished.
That's very important. All right, we're going to take a break. What we want to do is hear from you. If you have a loved one you're worried about, or if you have questions for yourself, whatever the case may be, give us a call. There's the number 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. Take a break. Be back right after this.